Howdy folks, I am Rebecca Jolly, the Jolly Alchemist, and today I am going to talk about forecasts in general when it comes to neutrinos, and I'm going to just explain where I'm going. But I'm going to start off with discussing pretty much, well, I didn't discuss the 14th, so I will discuss the 14th, even though in some ways technically this is more transit for the 15th and the 16th. I have decided to make a change because this is not working for me, and I have to do something that's going to work for me. So I've decided what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch from doing daily transits to doing grouping transits. So what I am going to move into doing, and I just wanted to explain that originally I had thought to okay, no, even more originally than that. I started off the year looking at the daily transits and committing to myself to track the transits on a daily basis. Okay, that I've been doing, that I will continue to do. At the end of July, I started realizing, oh shit, maybe some of this stuff could be useful for other people to know as well, and not just me. So that's when I started making the recordings on a daily basis, because I was tracking the transits on a daily basis. And that was really fun and interesting for a while. But it's gotten more and more to the point where I feel like I'm just saying the same things over again. And that's not fun. And then I got to the point where I thought, well, okay, if I have some kind of insight to give, some kind of Gate 43 juice to pass along, then that's okay too. So then I was trying to access insight on things and not just to be saying, yeah, here's what it is. But that didn't work that well for long, and then I started, of course, this period of experimentation even more when I was trying to think, okay, well, would it make me happier if I did this? Would it be better if I did that? And none of those were working either. And so then I got to the point where I thought, well, if I can just hold out till the end of the year doing the daily transits, then I'll switch to a grouping transit, and I'll explain what that means. At the beginning of the year and move through at least until I have a whole year full of transits, because the beginning of my journal of transits is not really listing all that much anyway. It's just a stack of a stack of numbers, and it wasn't even until looks like around the end of March that I started actually writing down the switches that I was noticing. And then, of course, I started noticing more and more and shifting into that. But I think actually there is some usefulness in the exercise of going on again past my whole year, as long as I can get out of this rut of daily transits that is making me really unhappy. So I thought, okay, fine, maybe I'll hold out to the end of the year. But then while I was sitting in the bathtub while the solar flare was flaring, it occurred to me that what's the point of doing daily transits through the holidays when that's when everybody's getting busy, nobody's really wanting to do this kind of boring stuff anyway. So the numbers are definitely going to be going down of people watching the things. And I just thought, okay, once again, I'm doing all the work every day anyhow. It's just a matter of me trying to suit these videos to be, yes, a record of my own process and my own evolution, but also to be something that can be helpful for other people. And so I thought, okay, you know what? I'm going to start it now so that as we move through the holidays and into the next year, I myself, I don't celebrate the holidays, so it's no big deal to me either way. Um, but I thought it might actually be better for other people if I take the holidays into account that way and start the weekly thing as soon as possible, because this next weekly, not weekly, but a 6 day cycle is going to overlap with Thanksgiving anyway, and it's before Thanksgiving that things start speeding up. So I thought, okay, fine. So then I looked at when exactly that would need to begin, and that's almost immediately. And I was like, oh shit, okay, well, crap, because then I have to do the transits a week ahead. So here's what I've decided I want to do. I want to do a transit report right at the beginning, and I haven't decided if it's going to be in general the first day or before the first day. Maybe before the first day. Well, we'll see how it works out. Of the cycle. And then I will talk about the upcoming 6 day cycle where we have the same numbers in the sun and earth position, and we go through all 6 of those lines. And of course, sometimes that might be 5 days, because sometimes the time compresses. The when I used to give like 2 lines in a day, okay, fine, so then it would be 5 days. But it's transits that are uh, based on the movement of the groupings, so that the whole time, for instance, right now we're in 4323, and that's looking at really my natal channel here, my most important definition, is speaking from a solar perspective. And um, we're having that definition ongoing. We're in it still now for 6 days. And so then I would just cover that whole entire 6 day cycle. And then I would actually want to break that reading into 2 halves. And here's where it gets cool for you guys, because for those of you who have been following me, I hope, although I'm not sure I ever actually said it, but I hope that you will start to see the value of keeping a daily record of how you feel on a certain day. Now, I'm a big fan of journaling in general, and uh, if you're up for it, awesome. I would love for you to keep a daily journal as well, so that you can really get the timbre of the day set in your brain. But it is not necessary. For those of you who are not keeping a journal, really all it really takes is just a few words, like on the calendar on your wall, or if you're doing things digitally, just a few words in your digital calendar to say, great day, I felt so good today, everything went smooth today, or oh, it was shitty, it was dragging all day long, or something really shocking happened, just so that you can remember that day, or at least how that day felt, so that in 3 months you can look back and actually start to track the patterns of your feelings, and see uh, if is see potential patterns. And that's where I'm starting to get right now, where I'm starting to get into the place where I have enough information, as my journal of this year became more and more complex and deep in the information I started to record. I'm starting to be able to look back and say, oh, okay, 3 months ago on this day, here's how I felt, and here's how I feel today, and here's how I felt 6 months ago on this day. Because it's occurred to me that what's happening there, well, let me back up and explain a little bit. My partner is a very logical human, very, very head centered. You can see all this brain definition going on, connected to the throat. And he's told me a story for many years of how when he was young, like in his early 20s, he started keeping what's it called? Where you make a chart for every day and whatever. He started keeping track very finely of his feelings and his moods, and he started to recognize that he was working in generally speaking, on a 2 weeks up, 2 weeks down kind of cycle. So really a moon cycle. Not just for women. And so that got me thinking about the subject of cycles. I mean, women are used to having a 4-week cycle on some level or another, but it got me used to thinking about, in relation to the transit, cycles that are a little bit longer than that, because we as people are conditioned in this society to look out for 7-day cycles and 30-day cycles. But tracking those cycles over longer distances or longer times is not something that's generally done so much. But I think it could be really, really useful. And I got this idea, of course, from tracking reflectors or observers, these people up here that have no definition whatsoever. I can show you this chart again. No definition whatsoever in terms of centers, and only gate definition. Well, what that does for them in a practical sense is it makes them into lunar beings. It makes those 28-day cycles very important for them, because that's what they can rely on. That when the moon is in the 20th gate, then they're going to feel a similar kind of way the next time the moon comes around to the 20th gate again. And so, long story short, I definitely would recommend to anyone who is interested in tracking the transits, especially anyone who is interested in tracking the transits with me, that you begin to keep some kind of a daily record of your feelings or outstanding activities of the day, so that when you're looking back on your journal weeks, months, years later, you can get a little bit of an idea of the feeling tone of that day, to help you track emotional waves and movements over large periods of time. And this can really give us insight, because I have learned from the reflectors that I have had dealings with that sometimes the energy everywhere is just crashing and burning. And if you weren't aware of that, then you could get to thinking that it was, something just having to do with you, and not with the global energy patterns and how they're shifting. So, what I thought I would do is set up a different kind of transit report, where the first part of the report is dedicated to looking backwards and seeing, okay, this is what I've experienced in the past 6-day or 6-line cycle. I shouldn't say 6-day cycle. I should say a 6-line cycle. This is what I've experienced in the last 6-line cycle. Here's some insights that I've had since that time of actually living and feeling that energy. And if other people tell me their stories about what was going on for them, so that we can have not only a forecast for the energy, but also a swinging back around to go, okay, what actually happened during that energy? Is there anything that we can actually track and staple down to having been directly, or as directly as we can tell, in mushy bodies that we don't actually know all the energetic feelings for, that there was something that affected me or us or you during that time, and then the forecast for the next week. And that way you could have not only a daily forecast, which really, to get much out of it, you got to sit there every day. And I know some people who are interested in the information but can't get or find or make the time to do that every single day. I'm hoping this will make that easier for them as well, to be able to say, okay, I have a week's worth of forecasts, so I know kind of what the energy is coming for me in the future. And as I'm taking my daily notes on, okay, this is how I felt today, then you and I too can sort of hopefully make a better pattern of tracking the future, and then having a point in between the groupings where we look backwards and say, okay, so what did we see back then? And it can be more of a back and forth learning exercise. At least it will be an upgrading of the exercise for me in a way that will help me to be more happy with what is going on. And sorry, I love you guys, but I'm more important than you are in this experiment. So I've got to be happy first. And maybe my being happy with it and being more okay with how the recordings are going will make it so that I can be more joyful in my work, and also so that I can have some time to do more shorts or moving into other parts of this aspect of my life. I guess we're going to call it a business. And generally, hopefully, make a change that will be good for everyone, especially since, well, it's in a lot of ways good for y'all as well, because I will be giving you more than just one bite ahead, one day ahead. I'll give you a whole week ahead, and then you can either plan your life around it or just be aware of it as you're living it, rather than having it be something that's so closely connected to the day. Maybe those energetic waves will actually be easier to experience on a weekly cycle. And then I won't have to spend so much of my time going, today we're in the first line, as I've said about all first lines, blah, blah, blah. And here's the second line, as with all second lines, And I'm not going to be trying to get my transit reports to be in any kind of a length. My thought going into it is they'll be what they are. I don't really care, because I'm just going to be talking about the things that are interesting for me. And then if they're not interesting to other people, well, then you can push the ask button and you can get a summary that can let you see the parts that you are interested in. I love that button, by the way. And you can speed it up so that you can listen to it double click, if that makes you happy. So there's lots of ways that people can take in the information, and then I can have a little bit more freedom to get it out in a way that's going to allow me to have the time for insights, because this process here, this 4323 that I am really run by, is a process that you can see it's in the middle of 3 lines, so it's individual, and this is fired by the root all the way down there. So that means that what happens is inspiration comes in bursts. And I've been having a problem because, according to the format of these videos, I've been really wanting information to come every day and to be inspired every day. And I'm not inspired every day. So then when I'm not inspired, I'm sitting here going, well, I'm uninspired. Don't have a lot to give you, man. And that's not cool. It's not feeling great. I don't love it. And to give a video when I'm not feeling inspired, that's what's hurting me. That's what's causing me the pain, and it's not okay. So let's try this. Let's see how it works. So what I'm going to do is I am going to work extra hard to put together the first 6-line transit on Sunday. Yeah, well, golly. So I might, yeah, I would like to actually have it be uh, released on Sunday, which means I would have to have it finished on Saturday, which in my time is tomorrow. So I might not be able to get it done that fast because I have a lot of research to do on the back of this. Every time I do a daily transit, I've got an hour or more of background work and study and, oh, that reminds me of this, let me go track that down, kind of stuff to do. So I might not actually be able to do this one until the 1st, which would mean I would be giving it on Sunday so that it could be released on Monday. That actually sounds better for my schedule. And that also does mean that the end of this grouping that I'm in right now, my own grouping, is going to get a little bit stiffed. So, sorry. I can talk about it a little bit right now, and I can show you my homework, so to speak. I can show you my journal and you can see that, and then we can basically just bridge the gap a little bit and make this transition as smooth as possible so that as everybody's moving into the busiest part of the year, I mean, I don't know, I think all the religions tend to be kind of busy around this time of year. So for all y'all, I'm hoping this makes life easier for you to both get the information and to plan your lives forward from an energetic perspective. And it will help me be able to build my personal ritual in a way that is hopefully more long-term satisfying. And if this works, if this is something that is sustainable for me, then I could definitely see carrying this on through a significant part of next year. I don't know. I hate to make promises considering how much I've been suffering over these daily transits lately, but it's a possibility. We'll see. I know that people like to get that kind of information and to be able to feel like they have some knowledge or control over their lives a little bit by knowing what energy is coming. I get that, and I can definitely respect that. And so, yeah, let's see what we can do here. So let me decouple the camera here and give you the deets, and then I will say goodbye. All right, let's see if I can do this without too much wonking around. Okay, so here we have, there we go, the journal for the last 2 days. And then here we have, let me get this pressed there, the journal for these days. Okay. And that carries us through to the end of this cycle, and I can talk a little bit about the juxtaposition cross of insight and dedication that we have moved through. So when we get to the juxtaposition cross of insight, let me hook this back up here. There. We have the underlying energy moving from being 4 and 49. So the 4th gate is the gate of formalization. It's youthful folly, being willing to look stupid for testing a theory. So it's, really creating theories of how things might be working. And we also have 49 coming from the emotional center down towards the root. in this channel of regulation. So that 449 is going to be switching to 30, which is the gate of the fates, and 29, which is the gate of, let me see if I can get my pointer on the right spot here. That is the gate of commitment. Yeah, it's is that the name for it? Commitment? Yeah, commitment. Really making a choice to stick something out. And it's the channel of discovery. You're making a commitment to something, and in order to, and as a part of that, you make your commitment to something, you stick with it, and you do it passionately, which puts you in the right time in the right place, and then you have the ability to discover new things going on there in a very experiential way. So that is the underlying energy that makes the difference in the shift. And really, the juxtaposition cross of insight is very much focused on getting that insight out. So being able to explain it. So they're really wanting to say out there, I know, to the world. And then when we move into the left angle cross of dedication, what we have going on is this energy of being really dedicated to speaking their wisdom, speaking their I know. And it's kind of funny how Ross says here, let me see, he says, these people are great as they are so subversive. I love that. They lay out that mutative knowing in the air, and then they walk away saying, okay, have some fun with that one. I love that bit. So it says, these folks are dedicated to planting their insight in you as a subversive act of mutation. Nice. And he also tells a story about how in the old days, he uses this example of the pyramids, how the priests who were tracking the stars and the skies all the time, they would be aware that there was some kind of, say, an eclipse coming, but they wouldn't announce it ahead of time, because if they did that, then they would lose the power. Because I thought knowing about it beforehand is the cool shit, right? But what he's specifically saying is that the energy dynamic has switched from the ancient times. Now, knowing about it beforehand is the valuable thing. So that you can say, I knew about it beforehand. But in those days, it was valuable to be able to walk outside and go, see? And then the sun starts to shade out and everybody's like, oh crap. And then the priest would gain in power by, supposedly having some sort of it would look like the priest had control over the skies to be able to say, look there, the sun will be disappearing, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom, kind of a thing, I guess. But he says now that that's changed for us, societally speaking, then the cross of dedication is much more about shocking people, but it's very much being committed in that 29th gate, to the act of speaking out. And then, of course, they've got to submit themselves to the fates, gate 30, as to whether that's actually going to have any impact on the people to whom they are speaking, more or less. So that's the shape of that. So I've given you at least a little bit of information to cover the gap. And now I'm going to try as quickly as I can to do all the research and back work so that my next video, whenever it's given, hopefully it will be coming out either sometime Sunday or the beginning of Monday. And that will be talking about the whole entire grouping going forward. And then I will let you know what's going on. And for the first one, it's really going to be just looking forward. And then the second one will be the first part looking backwards. What did we learn from last week? What insights came from last week? If there were any comments or stories that came in, then I can talk about those. And then we'll have the gate 13 aspect will come first, which is the gate of looking in the past, and then we'll have the gate 7 aspect of looking into the future so that we can establish the patterns for our living in the future and, of course, leadership. So that's what I'm hoping to do. Let's give it a try. Let's see how it works. I will need some patience from y'all in this upsetting of what has been a very reliable rhythm and ritual for some months. But I think in the end, it will be actually better for everybody. So let's get through this gate 3 confusion at the beginning and see if we can handle that. So my partner is having a very difficult time writing the titles for these kinds of things, and I've been asking more and more of him. So we're gonna press him again to try to figure out what this in between one means, but then we'll have something set for the next time. We'll see how this goes, but I'm going to try my best to make this as smooth a transition as possible. So until the next time we meet and we speak, and you will see a new Rebecca, a new jolly alchemist, back to her jolly, super jolly self. Until then, ciao.